Back, hey Andy.
All right. Hey, welcome. Thank you. Thank you for the welcome. Hello, Andy. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Steve. Hi, Scott. Hey, everybody. How you doing?
Doing good. Yeah, thanks, Gabriel, for pointing that out. It's not part of the new poll, I guess, our different product there. We'll work on that. All right. Hello, everybody. Hello, all the usual Tuesday people. Welcome to the Trade of the Week. Back and rested after Chris Varley subbed in for me, I heard last week, and dropped some good wisdom, nuggets of wisdom, which is always great. There was no official Trade of the Week last week, so we got back in the saddle this week, and yeah, we will certainly talk about it. But until then, we'll just go through the formalities here, the reminder, the disclaimer. Andy and myself are employees of Trade Ideas. We're also trade our own accounts. And anything you see or hear that we talk about is really just our own opinion. It's not to be taken as financial advice, nor the opinions of the company. It's our own personal opinion. And there you have it. Lawyers are happy. So as I said, we've been using this product for a long time, and we know there's always a bunch of new users as well. And there's really not much, well, let me put it this way. It's very hard to learn the program in just a couple days. You really got to give it a couple weeks and really filter out and learn how to make the program talk to you the way you want to hear it, whether you're a scalper, short seller, you like to only trade gaps, or maybe you're a swing trader like myself. And I'm going to offer a couple of nuggets of wisdom as well here today for swing traders. But regardless, you got to be patient with, coming along the learning curve, and we do our best to try and help you along that learning curve. And primarily, it's Barry in the live trading room every day, and we take over for him in the afternoon. Matter of fact, noon Eastern each day. One of the four or five or six of us will kind of take over for him on the YouTube live feed. And again, talk about whatever it is you guys need help with, or whatever you want to talk about. I mean, I'm constantly sending new users into these support sessions and say, hey, Michael's in there right now. Go ahead and have him demonstrate this for you. And that's really the best way, to get the information that you are looking for. All right, so if you want to get to that, you can go to the bottom of the screen there. You'll see trade-ideas.com/live. That's a redirect link. It'll take you directly to that noon Eastern time live stream that I just mentioned, as well as Barry all throughout the day. And free is a really good price. And, I think Barry's content, Barry's room rivals a lot of other pay for service type rooms out there. So again, we'll talk about how, we use Trade Ideas to curate the information, humans working together with machines combined. Really, one is not better than the other, but when you put them both together, we can work really well together. We'll talk more about that, especially during the AI section, but it's always just a good intro slide, just a good reminder that it really is a symbiotic relationship, using Trade Ideas or using any kind of software, along with your own intuition and your own discernment as well. All right. Yes, my hands are sore from, I had a nice road trip, and then the other half of my vacation really was a staycation. So yes, Mike, see, that did include drumming practice. A lot to work on. All right, let's get going on today's agenda. Market recap. I do have a lot to say about what's going on out there, and he's got a few things to say about the AI recap. Trade of the week got off to a great start, thankfully. So we'll check in with that one. Some thoughts on the last one as well. And then really going to try and tease this. I mean, I'm going to give what I think is probably the best trading tip for the swing trader. It's just, maybe it's not the best, but boy, it's up there. It's top 3. It's something that I think I can demonstrate for you guys, and you can really see, you're going to really be able to see the wisdom of all of that. All right, and then beyond that, we'll get into the sector scan and then chart requests from there. And so let's get going. All right, so let's bring up the S&P. Really, that tells the story today. There's the morning, and then there's the afternoon, which of course gives us a really nice looking bottoming tail after a very much overbought condition. I was kind of lamenting to Andy earlier in the day before the trade of the week took off that I said, well, the timing just is, it's a tough one. That's a pretty big move we've had off lows, and we're probably fighting overbought territory up here where it's hard to get things to follow through, but geez, didn't take much other than really just a half a day bounce back and right back up. So for the bellwether is concerned, the S&P 500, again, no bear case to be made. It's been a couple weeks since I've talked to you guys. This is interesting, and we'll come back to this if I can nail it right there. That candle really faked me out, but we'll just leave that as a placeholder for what I'm going to talk about later. Nice recovery off of that head fake candle there, but right back into overbought conditions. But boy, didn't take long for really the dip buyers to feel like they might be missing out if they didn't jump in. I'll get to that in a second. Looking at the Nasdaq, a little bit stronger than the S&P. Closed back in all-time high territory, also with a very nice bottoming tail. So very, very constructive candle there. The interesting story really was over in small cap land. The IWM really sold off hard right from the open, and then once it reclaimed that 10-day moving average, 10-period moving average, it popped right back into play, stick save, and interestingly enough, a stick save with a bottoming tail wick right above the 50-day moving average. And again, that's going to be another placeholder. We're going to talk about that 50-day moving average a little bit later. So, you know, still just sideways forever over there in small cap land. But, you know, early in the day, we were selling off pretty hard, and I noticed there really was just not, there was not a safe haven, you know, during this period of time. It was really interesting. I looked up, and TLT and solars were really the only thing with maybe any a hint of green. Everything else was pink and red on the day. It was very hard to find things that were holding up well, but we will go through those sectors in a little bit. But yeah, all systems are go. It's just full steam ahead, and the market got a little ahead of itself probably on Friday, and popped right back into play again today. If you're, you know, waiting for the doomsday drop in this market, you're probably not going to get it. It's just a zombie market to the upside. Anything you want to add, Andy, that I maybe missed on? You're on mute.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Well, yeah, I mean, if you were watching the sectors today, like Steve was saying, you're scratching your head why we weren't just really just completely falling out of bed. I think all you have to do is look at the Amazon, the Apples, the Googles. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
look at that Amazon. There's
Yep.
Apple. And yeah, so big tech was definitely holding up, not only obviously making the Qs hit another all-time high, but was also, they have a pretty decent weighting in the spies too. So that was, if you saw your portfolio falling apart and you weren't in like some of the big boys, and wonder why the spies was holding up as well as they were, that would be your reason. Unfortunately, IWM does not have any weighting of those.
Yeah,
because they're not small caps. Yeah.
I'm drawing my P&L for you right there. That was pretty much today. Opened up and then just kind of then recovered towards the end.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, impressive for sure. But it's one of those. It's still a market that you have to be in the right stuff on any given day to see your stuff move, and it's been that way for a while. So we'll see if maybe the small caps can't play catch up, or are they going to continue to drag.
Yeah, I mean, they really put in a nice little stick save there above the 50-day, and we'll just, you know, leave that because we're going to talk more about that look that it's throwing us right now. All right, so if you want to talk about the AI today, take it.
Yeah, let me grab it. And let me pull up. I'm going to pull up the docking version of what you're going to have access to. I'm going to go ahead and say it. Not hopefully, I'm going to say it. You're going to have it this week. So hopefully I won't let you down. But even Dan said it in our marketing meeting today. So I can find it. Don't tell me I closed that thing. Where's the D, Steve?
I don't see any Ds. I'm looking for a D, and I don't see a D.
Yeah, I just had it and minimized it. That's crazy. Well, I'll just pull it up another one. What is it called? Omni. All right, so this is the Omni channel. I think we're going to give it a new name. I don't think a lot of people know what that's actually a combination of all the other hollies. It's kind of faded in there. You can see but I think it needs to stand out more, either all AI or something. But anyway,
House
this
party.
is, yeah, there you go. This is what you guys are going to get when you go to that channel. If you do want to follow just the AI and have it up on a dock so you can pull it up real quick, this is what it will look like. A lot less noise. I think I cut down the number of columns, put to what I thought was basic information that will help you trade it. But wow, a great day, I think, for the overall. I mean, just you can just look there. It wasn't a whole lot of picks. You only had what, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see, seven picks, and for the most part, you had 3 good winners, and this KNX was actually not a bad one at all. So we'll go through each one of them real quick, but just want you to take note of the moderate profit versus the conservative profit. We say over and over, just like any good trader, all the best day traders that I ever knew, they hold trades pretty much all day and not just looking to jump in for a 15 or 20 cent gain. And our back office has shown us this over and over as we keep all the data that the moderate profit, which holds it till the end of the day, does outperform conservative by a wide margin. All right, so let's start with the first one here. Let's just go from top to bottom. We'll go over through all of them real quick. Thought this was a very nice move. This is from Holly Neo. Okay, it's a breakout long strategy. Called it pretty quick this morning at 15 minutes after the bell. You can see the signal there at 873. Did have a nasty little wick down that got close but did not stop out. Honestly, if it's me and I'm trading something this volatile with this much volume coming in, I am not going to have a, what is that, a 14-cent stop on it. But that's what we do for our to keep the data points in the back consistent. We don't like the conservative profit to get too far away from us, but could be a reason why moderate profit outperforms a lot of them. But anyway, just beautiful all day hold there. I mean, you're talking about 783 and looks like it closed around 864 or something like that. So a nice little, almost $1 gain in a small percentage gain of 9.83 right here. You can see it there. So a nice trade there. Shin was also along. This was a pullback. This is also from Neo. There's your pullback. Came in this candle right there at 59.50. Got as high as 61.66. Okay, so over a buck trade there. Did pull back, got kind of nasty and closed higher, but some nice alpha to be had there. I thought this short right here was a very nice one as well. Just a beautiful trade. Kind of got near the stop about halfway to it. Nothing alarming, and then finally rolled back over and bounced off the 50. But some nice gains to be had in this one as well. KNX. If I was a day trader, I would have taken this, this morning because I thought it was a really pretty setup. There was your signal right there. But even if you missed this and you saw it come down here, get off there. Get off. Got close to the stop and then bounced back up right here when it went back through the signal. Even if you missed it the first time, would have been a great. I saw it right there, and I mentioned to the guys, this looks pretty good, and of course, it went another almost another buck there. So some good trades real quickly. This one was kind of a no factor swim. Just nothing really happened there. It was I could see the logic bounce back, maybe, fading it as it bounced back, thinking it was going to roll back over, just never really did anything. And then IC was just kind of one of those ones that I would have passed on after those huge, 3 candles in a row and then calling it right here. That was kind of a dangerous for me, but that one did get stopped out, so not a good one there. But overall, Steve, great day for Holly Neo. I'll sling it back to you unless you have something to add.
No. Ideas are good. Managing them are something we can
That's
do
right.
better than the machines can do. Man and
Yep.
machine. Okay, actually, there's a question from Liliana there on the docking. You might be able to answer better than I will.
Hmm.
All right, so on trade of the week segment here, it triggered for us this morning with some nice follow through from the Friday candle. Again, you know, the jump rope just set up really, really well. One of the first things I'll do and look at, yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe I should show my screen. One of the first things I'll do is take a look at the some of my go-to scans and see, you know, if anything's lining up. And if you know the A table scan here, the ones that are at the top are sorted by short float, and really, really dark green means they have a really, really high short float percent. And you know, I noticed SPRT on Friday, and boy, I said if this thing closes strong on Friday, it's probably going to be the trade of the week. I just love the way it gave us a little bit of luck, I think, on the timing. Let's see if I can nail it there. There we go. So that's what it looked like on Friday going into the weekend. The blue line is indicating the trigger point at which the trade would be live. So knowing that, you know, this chart in and of itself, yeah, okay, whatever. You know, I mean, I'd probably pass it up more times out of not, unless I was really interested in trying to find something to trade. Yes, it has a nice cup and handle going into to today, but other than the fact that it's got all of these very interesting metrics, okay? Supposedly it's only got, you know, 16 million in the float, and now our data is showing 55. I've seen anything from 38 to 55% short the float because different companies, I think, are calculating what the actual size of the tradable float is. So regardless, 38%, 55% on that many small shares in circulation, that's a recipe for a short squeeze or even possibly a gamma squeeze for the options geniuses out there. But that in itself, being at the top, gosh darn it, being at the top of my scan, where did it go? There we go. Being at the top of my scan, see, we could look at FUV here and say, oh, gee, that's a pretty deep pullback. No, I don't really see a whole lot there. Blank was one of our old prior traded through the weeks. So was ASO. They all just kind of keep moving higher on their own merits. But this SPRT with that look going into the week, and I really, really couldn't pass it up because it just felt like very similar to the last one that we left you guys with. POW, even though POW didn't have necessarily a big short squeeze at all, nothing to speak of, you know, it still looked, I think I'm going to get it here. It still looked interesting. That was the look of ammo 2 weeks ago, the trade of the week 2 weeks ago. And we said buy above 8. And the very next day, it gave us a little, you know, squirrely volatile behavior and then took off on its right path. And I got to tell you, one of the things I've been doing a lot of lately is selling half when it seems to be right. And I remember saying, if this thing can get back to 10, I would like to be a seller of some. So when I was on my road trip, I had an order at $9.99 to sell half sitting out there. And it's just kind of nice to get that alert and say, okay, that was easy. That was pain-free. And what that does is it allows me to stay in the other half, you know, to start doing this stuff because I've locked in a good profit, you know, from there to there roughly. I can let this be, I can be a little bit more casual about this little bit of a pullback. So in the bigger scheme of things, I think, you know, this thing is still going to hold the trend and I can still hopefully make money on the second half. But back to trade of the week this week, it had kind of that same look going into the weekend. If we could just get some follow through, and as I had mentioned, you know, going into this, I knew this one support trade of the week. It could be explosive, low circulation of shares. You know, this thing really could be a volatile play. So consider using a position size that allows you to absorb the expected price volatility. Well, we got some price volatility, and thankfully it was in the right direction. I mean, early this morning it dipped down pretty low there, but you know, when you have those types of candles that dip down low and then just rocket back to highs and leave a nice bottoming tail the day after a green day, I might even add, that's pretty solid. So I expect a little bit more from this tomorrow. And I think one of the reasons, again, that I really gravitated to this one, it wasn't so much the chart. The chart was just, you know, whatever. Yes, I will share that, Liliana, I promise. The chart was just whatever, but it's like, what's happening underneath it? We all know everybody's talking about Wall Street bets and GameStop and the AMC, and people are learning what gamma squeezes are. I didn't even know what a gamma squeeze is, but everybody's starting to talk about this. And once everybody starts to talk about it and the market is focused on it, yeah, this is the stuff you want to be playing. And so it did exactly what I hoped it would do. It started to create and get a lot of discussion on the short squeeze boards. And again, it's nothing more than just taking my A table, which by the way, normally is configured to look for nicer trade setups, but I had this one down to 65 actually, and 65 on the stock composite rating just kind of encapsulates a lot of filter settings and gives me kind of a D plus, C minus student, nothing really to write home of, but it started to show me some ideas that I was missing before. So that was the key, kind of dial that back a little bit and say, all right, I know we don't really have great stock composite charts right now. Maybe if I dial that back a little bit, I'd see some of the things that are under the surface. And that's exactly, how we found this SPRT. And once you started looking at the fundamental data of the float and the short float and what the market's focused on, and sure enough, they were talking about it again today. So I expect to see some good stuff tomorrow. Now, where would I be a seller of the first half? I want to be a seller. I'm gonna set a price alert actually right there, and it was discussed in the email. We're gonna try and risk 40 or 50 cents to make a buck, and a buck is up here around 550. So tomorrow, if I can get up, if I can get some shares off, maybe 30, 40, 50% shares off, I will do so tomorrow at 550. That came in real handy again for me today. I've been doing a lot more of this lately. See that sell tag? That's a mirrored account that I was mirroring another trade in that I've been sitting in VISL. Why did I sell right there? Again, that's that level. Once these prices expend a lot of energy and they take out a prior level like that, they don't seem to want to stay there very long. So I got off half of my VISL on the open, and I'm sure glad I did. I'm starting to do a lot more of this. I'm not getting greedy. I was getting way too greedy before, but as I talk a lot, sometimes a day and a half, you get a nice day and a half of movement. Friday was day number 1 in VISL. Today's open was the second half of the day, and then it just expends itself and just blows its top off. And then you got to wait for it to reset up again. It could take a while. So I'm doing a lot more of that. And that's what I really hope to get out of a SPRT, maybe tomorrow even, hopefully if we're lucky. But apparently, people are talking about the options calls that are sitting in this thing for 6 and 7 strike prices, and there could be some more meat on this bone. But let me go ahead and give that scan out for those that were asking about it. And if I'm missing any concepts or thoughts or questions on this, let me know, Andy. But I'll send this out. All right, A table.
Just Dave wanting to know, maybe go over some of the logic about where you might have entered the trade this morning.
Okay, that's a good one. A good question, because it gapped up. Okay, and now a lot of times I'll say I really prefer, and that blue line, of course, is the trigger. I would prefer we open up, at or under the close from the prior day, and then push up through it and trigger and get in. But when it gaps above, I like to do either one of two things. I like to either wait for it to fill the gap or wait for it to kind of pick up this moving average right there. So I try to be a little bit more patient, if they do gap up. Now, of course, you can buy maybe half on the opening gap and pray that it doesn't run without you and give you a better entry on the second chunk. But there's really no one right way to enter on these things when they do gap. They're either going to gap and go, or they're going to gap and crap. I prefer that they, open underneath and then run higher. But if we don't get that, I'm usually going to wait for a gap fill, or if I can be even more patient, wait for it to pick up that moving average and buy it like that. And then once the volume came in here, you can just see my moving average, the 10 SMA was pretty much in charge going into the close. So that's really the concept behind finding that one. It's just it's timing the jump rope. It's a lot of different names I like to watch, and sometimes those names line up perfectly going into a weekend. And I think this was one of those cases. I know I had some other names on there. I haven't really followed much up on them. Let's look and see. What was it? Okay, GDXJ I said to keep an eye on, which probably did okay because well, at least in the early morning, they were holding up and then they gave it back. Okay. Riot which is a blockchain. And I'm kind of liking the way that looks. It popped up, moving sideways, and it did tag its 10-period moving average. That one could be one to watch tomorrow. Mara is another blockchain stock, probably looks similar, looks very similar. Yep, Riot and Mara look the same. And then as we look at the solars a little bit later, I really like the way some of these solars closed. Look at that, Andy. Did you catch that one? SunPower is a nice looking close over there.
I was looking at those today. I sure did.
Yeah, and then the one that I think Michael's trading in our account, is it Michael? He's in this Maxim. Look at that. Those are very interesting charts. So, Maxim, SunPower, CSIQ, I think. If you guys have any solar names that you really like out there, I think you want to keep a close eye on them tomorrow. These names that I've just kind of flashed up on screen here, they've all had really beautiful 3 and 4 day pullbacks with a little spike kind of into the moving average.
What does Ron look like?
It's been holding up well.
Yeah, it is.
Going back much. And then there's that Sol that we were kind of, that SunPower looked really interesting, and I like the look of that. And action. But I think we'll see that. ENPH, somebody's mentioning. Let's see. Is that? Oh yeah, that does look healthy.
I actually didn't even know that was a solar company.
Yeah, how about that? The options volumes on SPRT were enormous. That's what I was reading, David. Sometimes I'll pull up, and just do $sign SPRT in Twitter and see what people are talking about. And people were starting to get excited about some of the open call interest that's out there, and the big term gamma squeeze everybody likes to use. So as long as people are talking about it, that's good. That's what we want. But for me, I try to just make sense on the technicals. That 550 level is going to be very interesting. I will be a seller of some of it at that level. I can guarantee you that. But that lurks in the back of my mind, the giant runs some of these stocks have had over the last few months that the GameStop people or the Wall Street Bets people have been kind of focused on. We'll see if it, translates. I don't want to live on borrowed time. It's really hard to get, 3 solid green candles in a row without it reversing on you. So that's why, you feel like you want to sell into strength. You do so. You just got to have your spot picked out ahead of time. Does the trade of the week usually include only low float and low price? No, it is, lately they've been kind of focused on the lower priced ones, but that's not always the case. We've had some in there that are, typical normal stuff above $25, not really a short play. It just kind of depends on what, gets our attention every single week. And I think the POWW trade did pretty well, 2 weeks ago, and still working well for me in my swing account. It just felt like it was kind of the same similar setup, and go with what's working. All right. So Carrie, if you get, Andy just answered your question. You can use the web version, but if you're able to use like a virtual desktop or Parallels or Boot Camp or something like that, you'll get a better experience out of using that. All right, so here's what I wanted to do next. I wanted to talk about, I think I want to give you guys a tip that is really something I've been doing a lot more of in the last 6 months. I'll preface it by saying, I think we're getting ready to be interviewed in-house, some of the traders, and I think one of the questions is going to be, what's the first thing you do in the morning? Well, for me, the morning isn't so much important as a swing trader as the close is. I base a lot of my decisions what to cut. If it's not holding up, it's time to cut it, 10 minutes to the close. I get a pretty good feel of what a stock might be looking like, and if I want to cut it into the close. Stocks like now, if I was looking for things to dial in and looking for money to go to put to work today, I probably would have taken something like Maxim Home or SunPower Home, because the way in which they're closing looks very solid. And tomorrow, just anticipating that nice little pattern there, sometimes if they gap up and run, you're already positioned and you're enjoying the spoils of being in early and taking a chance at the close. So I will initiate trades at the close as well. But what I want to talk about today is a rule that I mostly follow. Sometimes I break it, but I think when I look back, if I follow it, it has saved me a lot of money, and it saved me a lot of headache. And when you can save headache and you can save emotional capital, it keeps you in the right frame of mind and helps you to stay in the right attitude, looking for new trades, new opportunities, not nursing, milking, and lamenting why the one you're in just won't go. Why hasn't everybody else figured out what I think I know about the stock? And there's a moment in time at which these stocks will give us that clue. And that's the tip I want to give you guys, okay? It's using the 50-day moving average, and it's using the closing candle. And I don't really have a name for it other than the save yourself candle. Save yourself a lot of agony, heartache, money. And let's take a look at some examples of how that can work. I'm going to start off, and we're just going to look at GDX here. So what if you're a day trader? I'm sorry, swing trader. What if you're a swing trader, which I am, and I was caught up in this. All of a sudden, your stocks, and this is the GDX, this is the gold miner ETF, so we're looking at a whole bunch of them together. What if on this day, right? Yeah, I'm trying to nail it. On this day right here, here we go. This is the day, and of course, we're going to go and play the hindsight is 2020 game, the time machine game, but this is what I've been doing. If I was lamenting this trade and thinking, boy, this thing needs to bounce or I'm going to get out, the moment my stocks break and close below the blue 50-day moving average, to me, it's almost like they've just gotten sick on me. They're no longer in a good state of health. And what I want to do is say is if we had heeded that and said, boy, I really like, maybe it was a gold stock you were in, but maybe you were in GDX and you say, boy, I got 10 minutes to go in the close here. I really don't like the way this is closing. I'm just going to go ahead and take my lumps and rip the Band-Aid off. Well, if you'd have done that, the very next day, you would have been happy. And then for the next couple of weeks, you probably would have been okay with that. So here's our signal candle. This is the save yourself candle. All right, the ship is sinking. Save yourself. You got 5 minutes to the close. Use that to get out, and a lot of the times you're going to save yourself a lot of headache. Let's look at some names. Most of these are names I've been in and used this to get out. Well, Ride just closed below there, but I don't want to look here. I want to go back in time when these things were just the cat's meow and everybody was talking about how great these new electric vehicle companies were going to be. What if you used that candle right there to say, this is just not cutting it, I got to get out? Boom, and then it was confirmed a whole week later and then confirmed again 2 weeks later. That's a lot of anguish that you can save yourself if you just use a simple technical indicator, crossroads, if you will. That one saved me. You guys have heard me talk about TGB. I've been in and out of this thing a lot last year. I gave up on it. This is a funny one too, because I almost felt like I was living on borrowed time. That candle technically closed. The first one technically closed below, but I didn't get out because I was still convinced of the story that I was copper and this thing is going to. That very next day, I said, nope, I'm not sticking around for this. That's 2 days in a row. I got a reprieve. I'm not going to let this thing close 2 days below on strong volume under my 50-day moving average, the general health. That saved me some heartache for sure. Now that capital's freed up and I can put it to work in other things like VISL and SPRT. Let's look at some other ones. Back to the well of the, again, probably a lot of examples in the past of the EV names, but there's our save yourself candle right there in NIO. Sure, we're back to it, but that's 4 or 5 months of just anguish and going nowhere if you're trying to be long. So this is, rip the Band-Aid off candle, whatever you want to call it, but it seems to be an early warning system in my book that shows us if we just adhere to that. All right, here's Sol, SOL, when it couldn't close above that 50-day moving average and hasn't really gotten back above since. Let's see what else is in here for a decent example. There was a penny stock that a lot of people, might have heard, and I was participating in it, but once, and I tell them all the time over there, the chart has to confirm the story. There is the save yourself candle right there. So all that anguish, could have been saved if you just adhere to that one simple little rule. Would I use the flip of the 50-day to enter a position? Yeah. I mean, yes. I would say you can do that, Dave, for sure. The thing I laughed about earlier was, boy, this one really faked me out when the spiders did that. When the SPY, I was not long anything. I was like, get me out of everything. I don't want any part of this. And then the market just came right back and said, not that time. So it doesn't always work, but a lot of the examples that I'm using here they really, really did work. Here's one like X Steel. Here's a good example. X Steel, okay, there is our signal candle right there, close below the 50, saving ourselves all of that anguish. But when you look at one of its sister companies or similar companies like Cleveland Cliff, you'll see how the 50 has held this thing. So if you're still in this thing, chances are tomorrow they might try and shake you out. But look at how this thing, acts when it wants to support something, it will. So that's why I use this. If it fails, then it's probably the earliest warning system as a day trader I used to get out. Using the 10 and the 20, you can get yourself out too early a lot of times, but that 50-day, that's just, like I said, it's like, it's just the general health of the chart, like looking a gift horse in the mouth. Oh, GameStop. How did GameStop close today? Because I think GameStop, yeah, look at that. Did GameStop just give us the save yourself signal candle, everybody? I don't know. Maybe it'll try and hold on, a couple of bottoming tail wicks there, but it's slowly starting to give back. We might look at this GameStop, 3 weeks from now and go, oh my God, if I'd have just sold at 199, I could have saved myself all that mental anguish and trauma and what if and beating yourself up, all the things we go through as traders. So just to rehash, trying to give you guys a really good swing trading tip to get out and rip the Band-Aid off, move on to greener pastures. And more often than not, if you start to do that at the close on the ones that aren't working for you, when you go back and revisit them in the near future, you're going to be like, man, I'm really glad I got out of that thing when I did, because it probably would have really messed with my head for the next 2 weeks. All right, any questions? Let's see. Would you be looking at the same on a 15-minute window just before closing? No, Lillian, I'm going to base this topic, I'm going to base this purely on the daily chart. That's why I'm waiting till the close, because I want to see what the daily closing candle is going to give us. What is it going to look like at the end of the day, and see what happens. I think Solo, going back to the electric vehicles, gave us another pretty nifty save yourself signal right there. So again, these were stocks that were all doing really well for a while, but then at some point they stopped doing well. Back here in November, you're crazy. You were feeling like you were missing out if you weren't playing the solos, but to keep playing and keep going to the well after it breaks that blue line, you're going to save yourself a lot of anguish. Anything you want to add, Mr. Andy?
No, I totally agree with everything you said.
We talk about it every day. That's
yes,
why.
yes, and for the most part in the industry, the 50 is kind of the directional indicator, for a stock, whether it's bullish or bearish on the daily chart. So it's a very, very wise rule, I should say.
I just like it because it's an easy cut and dry thing that you can draw a line in the sand, and it's pretty black and white. Maybe, I don't know, but maybe Solo's even trying to do that again here last couple of days. Who knows? All right, so I'm going to look at the sectors next, but for real quick, Aaron's asking me if I'm invested in MRIN, and I am not. It looks like a crazy ass, crazy thing to be a part of.
Is that a SPAC or something?
Not really my cup of tea. I don't like really playing things that are that crazy. I'm just more of a swing trader. But no, I'm not. I have no skin in the game for that particular one. All right, so what we'll do is some of you I see are typing in your stock symbols. You can do that now. We'll finish up there in a couple of minutes. Again, we're going to start right at the top. This is my 5-star sector to watch tomorrow, the solars, the TAN. You can see it looks very much like the ones we looked at earlier, SunPower, CSIQ, MAXN. So the ETF of solar, I believe, is very much in play tomorrow. It was holding up strong today and really just kind of got stronger as the day went on. So I don't know if I'm going to find as good of a looking chart of these sectors as we go through, but we'll just quickly go through and see if anything else resonates. The treasuries were strong today. That was a big, kind of defensive, and they just stayed that way the whole day. IYR.
So much for rising rates, huh?
Yeah, so much for rising rates. Gold started the day strong, gap, but most of it was a gap, so it didn't do a whole lot. That software doesn't look too bad. It's an interesting little pennant. Not bad at all. Self-driving cars. We saw the Qs, the tech, gold miners, just kind of languishing down here below all their moving averages. XLV, if I recall, was looking pretty hot last week. Yeah, I think I remember saying something about that too. Yeah, pretty good. Probably a bit extended now and probably needs to blow off a little steam, but That one was looking good. Okay, the semis look good. I'm going to go ahead and give the semis a nod here. I like the way they're going sideways, reached down and kind of touched the step ladder with the tail of that candle and popped right back up into play. Solar and semis tomorrow, I think, is probably the way to go. And I don't know if I'm going to find anything as good as the solars and the semis as we go through the rest of them here. Interesting, XHB, they broke their 50-day moving average back here, and they really can't get back above their 50-day moving average. And the home builders, silver, open strong and just giant red candle. Okay, so the airlines, they were looking decent back here, but all of a sudden, there's our signal candle closed below the 50. It's been 3 weeks now, and now the momentum's starting to grab these bounces and throw them back to lows. Airlines look weak to me. Talked about the IWM possible bounce at the close there. We'll see if that digs in, but 2 solid days of selling on the small caps. XLF looks messy, like how it can't get back above its 50 after it broke that last month. Oil, the commodity of oil, just hard to stop. Retail, back in the banks, looking kind of gross again. Yeah, so semiconductors and solars, I think tomorrow look really poised to go into the day looking pretty well. We'll see how that translates. Okay, so we'll start with Arun with KXIN, and then Betty Sue wants to look at APLS, and that's it. If anybody else wants to look at something, go ahead and chime in. So we'll start with KXIN. Okay, sideways, but it's just giving us the sideways. This looks, looks like a lot of those EV plays that we just looked at. So it's kind of under pressure. It's under the general health of the 50. It needs to get back up and put some closings above the 50. Now it's setting up, a real nice wedge. How it resolves itself, I don't know. It's only a guess at this point, but it's kind of leaning on the defensive side because it's under all of its moving averages here. All right, APLS for Betty Sue. Strong trend. There's a perfect example of a day and a half, right? Day number 1, day number 2, we get that blow off and it just kind of closes with a big wick on it. So once I see that day and a half blow off top, it's gonna have to reset again. And maybe it'll give you a couple days of resetting and keep an eye on it and stay above that 10-day moving average, and hopefully it'll work for you. I don't know if I can bring up the VIX, Gabriel, but I can look at VXX, and this is a toxic ETF, the VXX anyway. It just seems to bleed regardless of what the market does. It gives you a couple days of hope, and then it just drops back in. So I've played this in the past, but I'm not a real fan of it right now. I'd rather play, something like SDS's, the inverse or something like that, that doesn't have as much what they call decay, overnight decay. Oh, Dave has 3. Okay, Dave, for you, we'll do 3. SRNE got ahead of itself, and then looks like it came back. It's got to hold that 20 for sure. First Solar, oh, we didn't look at that one, did we? We're looking pretty nice. Would have been nice to see it touch that OCD line, like the algorithms like to be OCD, but I don't think you can go wrong with a Solar tomorrow. Might have got ahead of itself a little bit, but can't say too much bad about that one because it's in the solar sector. Microsoft, very strong trend, probably getting a bit ahead of itself here. I wouldn't buy it here. I'd wait for a pullback. Gabriel, yeah, we might have been looking at different charts, Gabriel. Maybe we were, but every time it gets close to that 50, yeah, it must be a different chart. I'm probably not seeing the same thing you are, so I'll stop commenting on that. APPS for Dillip. Big strong pullback, 2 days on strong volume. I don't know if this had earnings or something, August 9th. But trying to hold that 50-day moving average, that's the first thing that I see that comes to mind there. Hopefully it can do that for you if you're long. Dollar Tree, yeah. It seems under pressure, this 20-day moving average, it just can't post a close above it. It's really got a lid on the price there. It's defensive. That Dollar Tree is very defensive
You
looking to
had
me.
that gap down, which could have well been earnings, and a lot of time they just take
Yeah,
time to work off the
yeah,
bad earnings. So yeah,
yeah.
I don't
That
like
one's got a lot of work to do, I think.
it. It does.
Ruckus, RCUS. That's what I'd call it, Ruckus. Nice, kind of the opposite. Big move off
Uh-huh.
of some sort of news, gapped up, held the gap for the most part, and look, it's flirting and trying to hold its 50 and it's rising 10. So this thing's putting in some work, needs to get above that 200-day and start closing above 29 again, and it might start looking good. But this little area down here seems like it's being forced. The issue is being forced, and the buyers are being tested, and they're doing okay. G. Never seen that one, but it looks like it's breaking out of a nice little wedge there. I'm not too familiar with this one, but from what I can see there, it looks like it's trying to break out of that wedge. Probably to let it resume. Yeah, zombie market. That's it, Gabriel. GDX in a bit more detail. GDXJ in a bit more detail. Yeah, so its first test failed down here after the gap. Trust me, I'm long a couple of these things in silver. I'm not a fan of the price action, but I'm hanging in there for the bigger picture. I'm literally not following my rules because it's not a swing trade, it's an investment. So I'll just put it there. But that first test threw us back to lows, popped back up, and now we got 1-2 closes above this moving average. It's trying, and this is what I'm hoping for. I'm hope that this thing digs in and we get a few more days above that curling 10-day moving average. But they've got some work to do. But bigger picture, long-term investment, I'm bullish on that stuff. Oh, Gabriel wants to look at Goldman. We'll do a couple more here, then we'll bring in Scott. That's a nice little wick today. It popped down. I could see getting along something like that after that little blow off. Not bad in Goldman. IBM was recently dropped due to what seemed to be an overreaction to bad news. IBM, didn't they lose one of their executives? Well, here's what I see. Regardless of when that bad news dropped, it was having a hard time all these days showing us that it was having a hard time getting back above its 20-day moving average. So this thing, it kind of broke here. IBM is broken and it's gonna be guilty until it can prove itself innocent again. So there is a gap to fill down there as well. I'd be very nervous about that. But other than that, you just got to watch it day by day. MMAT. New issue, doesn't look bad. I prefer to have a little bit more data to work off of, but you hate to see it go back below 675 there. All right, 3 more, GNK, VRAR, and XOP. Then we'll bring in Scott. We'll finish at XOP. So GNK, I think these shippers are interesting. Nice trend, higher lows, pullback. Yeah, watch that 50-day moving average. This could be an area for an entry down here. I'm bullish on the shippers. I think you have to be when you read about what's going on out there. Another too few candles for me to really say anything about this one. Sorry, Mike. If there's a story there, these things take a few days to work themselves out before I like to at least get a 10-day moving average in there to see what's going on. All right, last one for Kevin, then we'll bring in Scott for any final announcements. The oil sector broke hard today. It's probably heading for that 50-day moving average. I'd say this XOP Spider is probably looking to eyeball that $90 level probably tomorrow, maybe, and then see what happens there. But other than that, I'm kind of talked out. So thank you all for your questions and your comments. We'll bring in Scott and for any final announcements here. And there we go. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. A couple items on the way out. If you don't have it yet, grab the Strategy Indicators book. It comes from Dave Mabe, our Director of Software Development, who brought us Holly, the backtesting module, the odds maker, Brokerage Plus, other goodies like that. So do check it out. He's got some great insight in there, trade-ideas.com/strategy. It's free. We got a podcast. Hopefully I have a new one out before the end of the summer, but do check out the ones we released earlier this year. Search for Trade Ideas Podcast wherever you listen to your pods. Add us. Check out the interviews that we have up there from earlier this year, and then stay tuned for the next installment. There's a code, Sunshine, good for 15% off your first month or year of Trade Ideas. So go ahead and apply that to an upgrade or a new subscription. You can find Steve on Twitter at TISteveG. Also look for Trade Ideas and QuantBot, some other ones. Facebook.com/TradeIdeasPro is the Facebook page to like and share with all your friends. And also info@TradeIdeas is the place to send all your questions. Goes to our help desk, gets you the help you need. The recording of this session will be up later on tonight or tomorrow, and you'll get an email reminder tomorrow about how to find it. So thanks, Steve. Thanks, Andy. Have a nice one.
All right. See you guys tomorrow.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. I'll see you Thursday.